Lesson 37. As you can see here, the Latin word for library is bibliotheca.
Now wait, Bill. You just said biblioteca. Why isn't it a bibliotheca?
Well, it's a long story, Michael.
Well, we don't have to get into the whole thing.
We'll talk about that in just one second. First of all, I want to say that this Latin word bibliotheca has become the word for library in many modern languages. Isn't that true, Miletus?
En español.
Right. In Spanish, biblioteca means library.
In French, it's bibliothèque.
Right, which comes from the same root. So anyway, the idea here is that the word biblio, that part of the word means book, and the part about theca, T-H-E-C-A, that is from a Greek word that means to put something somewhere.
Right, and biblio is from a Greek word that means book too, right, Bill?
Yes. So bibliotheca literally means a place where you put books. So let's bibliotheca a minute here to explain why the TH doesn't sound like th, but sounds more like t.
All right. Well, H isn't really a letter.
Well, it looks like a letter to me.
Well, of course it looks like a letter to you. You're a native English speaker. But in ancient times, there wasn't, strictly speaking, a letter H. In fact, because this word comes from Greek, the TH sound was represented by one letter called a theta.
The letter theta, right?
Exactly. And it was a specific kind of T. It was a T with a t, a h, or some kind of breathing sound after it. And so when we borrow words from ancient Greek into Latin, they retain that h sound, and we mark that with an H. It's not fully its own sound.
I think that's what you call an aspirated sound, right?
Correct.
So if you want to, you can say bibliotheca. It's
Right.
not going to hurt anything.
The Roman legions aren't going to come march through their time machine and take you out for it.
And the Latin police won't come and arrest you. But it is more accurate to say bibliotheca.
Exactly. So, Bill, what about the people who work in biblioteca?
And we have words for librarians. These are quite long words.
Bibliotecaria, bibliotecarii.
7 syllables each. But as you work with them, you'll get used to how they're pronounced. Bibliothecarius, bibliotecaria.
See if you can say that 3 times fast. Not up for the challenge, Bill?
That would bibliotheca a lot of practice.
All right, all right.
And finally, before we leave this lesson, I want to mention something that we're going to see quite a bit in upcoming lessons. And that is the idea that the ancient Romans used the preposition in plus the ablative all the time. They would say in the library, in the cafe, in the restaurant. And when they do that, they're using it in such a way as we, as English speakers, might use the word at. We might say at the library, at the school, at the restaurant, at the cafe. The ancient Romans said in.
That's right. So if you're doing these sentences in our exercises as translations, it's very important that you think about the context of the sentence in order to get the best English translation that you can.
And we'll review this as we go. We'll remind you of what's happening, so you'll get plenty of chances to work on that kind of translation skill. Let's take a look at our quick review box. In Latin, we have many word pairs in which you have a masculine form and a feminine form, such as discipulus and discipula.
Or magister et magistra.
Or bibliothecarius, bibliothecaria. And generally what happens is if you have a group of males, you use the masculine plural forms of that noun. If you have a group of females, you use the feminine plural forms of that word. And if you have a mixed group, generally speaking, you use the masculine plural forms of that noun.
Right, that's a good general rule. But, you know, Bill, that might be starting to change. I know some Latin speakers who prefer to use et or que to be more inclusive.
Right, we don't want to leave anyone out of anything. So we might say discipuli, discipulique.
Exactly.
Male students and female students. Or we might say discipuli, discipulique.
Right. So do whatever you're most comfortable with.
But for those of you who are studying other languages, you will see this in other languages. For example, in Spanish, this is the rule that if it's a mixed group, you do use the masculine plural forms to refer to them.
And this happens in Italian even today as well.
So it's at least something you should be aware of.